Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to be showing you a few of the most unique and hard to spot ideas that I've come across in the last couple of months. The first one actually could have occurred in a game of mine from the World's Rapid Championship. I was black and I was playing um, a player who currently represents Poland, Alexandra Moltsevskaya, as she's an IM, and we had a Sicilian defense. She played the move Queen G3, and I played a rather careless move, Rook F to D8. And when I played this move, I realized that I was stepping into a potential problem. My opponent spent a long time here, and she did find the right way to continue. By the way, this was completely unforced. I could have played the move Rook Fe8. That would have been much safer, but Rook F8 happened, and my opponent sacrificed a knight with knight d5. Well, if you have some experience in the Sicilian defense, this move is actually not that unusual. So this is not the unique move we're looking at, even though to some of you it might look like a pretty dramatic sacrifice already. It's actually quite typical. So I captured this knight. There's not much of a choice. It's a little too powerful to tolerate, so I took. And here, white has a big choice. She can simply capture back ED, opening the E file and kind of delaying the start of the attack. Or she can play knight f5, which threatens checkmate and also very promising looking. In fact, turns out that the computer says ED is a better move, but of course it's pretty hard to tell during the game, especially in a rapid game. So she played knight f5. I was getting ready for that move because it's kind of more forcing than ED. Knight h5 attacks the queen. She has kind of two main moves here. My idea was that on queen f3, I can actually go bishop f6 and try to trade some pieces. So she went queen g4 for that reason, that bishop f6 is not going to be possible here because then she could simply take it, and if I recapture with a knight, it's checkmate on g7. So g6 is pretty much forced by me, and then she captured on d5. Here I thought I had various moves that I could try. Like I could certainly just move my bishop away. I didn't really see what was wrong with that, but I decided, hey, why not bring in the rook to defend the bishop, and in general, seems like a helpful move, right? Because I'm not really worried about the bishop getting captured. I'm happy to trade pieces here. And at this point, she gave me a check, king f8, and she had very little time because most of it had been invested in getting here. And this actually turned out to be the most critical moment of the game, where she has a move that is so brilliant that, I mean, neither of us saw it. And even when you see it, you're still kind of astounded by it. It's not like, oh yeah, of course, I missed it by accident. No, it's like you see it and you're like, yeah, there's a reason I didn't see it, because it is that cool and it is that surprising. So let's try to figure out what it could be. So the obvious moves here that I was focused on as black, of course, I thought about, the sacrifice of the knight, right? A move that opens up the king. I thought about the queen going to this diagonal, trying to get to h8. I thought about the queen trying to go to f3 and checkmate on f7. So those are the three main attacking moves. And your mind is kind of just filled with that because it's like more forcing moves, right? So knight f7 needs to be examined, but actually, even though the king does get a bit exposed and we're worried about a rook lift completing the attack, I realized I have this move bishop f6, which opens a discovery on the queen, and they simply have no time to take the bishop, and black is winning. So that one is easy to refute. Now, queen d4, well, we have just bishop f6. So there's no problem. The attack is over. Queen f3, we use the queen to defend on the 7th rank by going bishop g5 and attacking the knight. So you know, she was facing a pretty difficult task here because it's just not obvious how to keep this attack going. And she was running out of time, and she played the rather desperate move h4. And the way I understand this move, it's sort of like a fantasy. It's like, oh, if only I can do that and then play that, and then there wouldn't be bishop g5, right? But of course, you know, black gets the turn to move. I played bishop f6. We start trading pieces. White is down a piece, and black goes on to win. So when I analyzed this game, the computer showed me that there was a move, Rook E6. And wow, it's not a capture, not a check, not really a threat. What in the world is that move about? Like, you're putting your rook under attack, and it's not even clear what threat you're making, right? So you guys, are you puzzled? That would be an appropriate response here. So yeah, I just want to say, like, for even, I don't know what level you need to be at, like, to see this kind of move, because it's higher than the level of me and my opponent, right? So I guess 2,400 is not sufficient. If you give this maybe, yeah, more tactically gifted players, maybe 2,600s, maybe that would seem like a bit of an easier move to find. I certainly don't think it's easy, even like knowing that it exists. So basically, what is the point? Well, the main point of this move is prophylactic. It's actually about stopping the move bishop f6. It's really hard to switch your mind to those prophylactic rails when you're trying to, like, when you're sacking a piece and you're trying to checkmate your opponent, and suddenly you're playing a move that is completely prophylactic in nature. Yeah, that's a big challenge. Tactically speaking, you also have to calculate like why the rook can't get captured. That's not the hardest part though, right? Because, okay, at that point you can calculate that you have a check, and you're going to win this bishop back. They can't capture it back. It's going to be mate, and you're completely winning. So that's not the hard part. The hard part is more like just conceptualizing this move, like, why would I even think about this, right? And now the move, it's not like completely, it's not like a knockout blow. And the computer does offer some defenses. By the way, bishop f6 is not one of them, because here we actually take with the rook. And again, from a calculation standpoint, this is pretty easy too, because you look at this position, you're barely down any material as white, and you got control of all the dark squares. It's pretty obvious that for an exchange, you've got like plenty of play, right? And so white is completely winning here. But black can do something like bishop c8 or the move f6. Those are the top two tries of the computer. And basically the point is that if you make them play a move like f6, it's a gain for you, because this bishop is not going to be coming to an active position. So your rook gets to keep her good square, and even though there's no like knockout blow immediately, you can do things here. Like, I remember the computer even liking the move queen e2, which looks weird because you're like stepping into the fork. But yeah, I just want to show you that, like, they can't even take your rook here, because if they take this rook, white is actually going to have some really big threats, and they are winning this position. Like if king h6, there's bishop c1, and I think on g5 there is rook to d3 or d4, and they can't stop that. Checkmate. So if they don't go knight f4, I think one of our main ideas in this position is g4, also just like tripling up on the e file. So it's like a slow burning attack, right? There's no immediate checkmate. So that's another tough thing about Rook E6, is like, even if like in the best case scenario, it's not like you're trying to win the game right away, right? And again, against bishop c8, we go queen d4, we force f6, and then we simply step back with the rook. So again, the main ideas are like rook e1 or pawn to g4, like kick their knight, maybe go rook f3. So we don't really need to get into that. With best play, the computer is like still surviving for black, but white is better. So the main thing here is just to sort of look at this move and be like, how do we ever find that when we're playing the game? In the middle of an attack, how do we ever think of such a move which doesn't even make it into the top tier of candidate moves, right? It's not a check, not a capture, not a threat. But again, I guess it speaks to the importance of stopping the opponent's ideas in chess, right? Which is a topic that we talk about a lot. And it's just fascinating that even when you're attacking, that could be such an important thing to do, right? Like just prophylaxis in the middle of the attack. Okay, so we have a second example, which is not from one of my games, but it is from like a puzzle book. In this example, well, the first move is sort of obvious. White sacrifices a knight, right? The attack begins in a rather prosaic way. So pawn takes, knight takes, king back, right? Actually, the move queen f4 is probably the most straightforward way to win. You're trying to get to h4. But a secondary move is the move queen d3. Like I had a student who suggested this move, and I was like, okay, yeah, you want to capture on g6, right? And then checkmate. And it's actually a pretty interesting idea. One of the possible defenses is the move knight d7. And the point of this move is that on queen g6, you play knight f6, and things are not so clear. Now, long calculation, there's still a way for white to continue attacking in this position, like with knight f7 and rook e7. So basically now we're down 2 pieces, but there's like a lot of pins going on. Black's bishop is pinned in both directions. And white kind of emerges from this forced sequence with some advantage after queen g4. But that's not the most convincing way for white to play. And again, I was kind of astounded here when I saw what the computer was saying was white's most convincing path to victory. Now, you're not going to be as shocked the second time, guys, but I think you'll still be a little bit shocked. The move is rook e6. It's like, what? Like, you're even blocking your attacking bishop. You're not capturing a pawn there, right? Why would you put your rook there? Well, we're stopping knight f6. So yeah, it's about stopping the opponent's ideas. If they play knight f6, you just take it. Yeah, and you get your queen in and checkmate on h7 on the next move. So what can they do? Yeah, well, they have to consider taking the rook. So there is some calculation for us to do here. We take, bishop blocks, and then queen takes g6. So we're threatening checkmate on h7. They have to stop that with something like this. And in the end, we're not even down much material, are we? But we are going to checkmate with a rook lift. So that's the end of that line. So, you know, it's not actually, the hardest part is not calculating like why the rook can't be taken, right? The hardest part is just coming up with this idea, right? So rook e6, and of course we have various threats that we're making with this move. I would say, depending on what they do, in some positions, you know, you still have queen h3 as an idea, and you have rook g6 as an idea. I guess that is threat number 1, is rook takes g6, because then you're going to get close to that checkmate on h7. And what other lines did I look at here for black? I think that was kind of the main idea is also that they don't have knight c5, because now we just go queen h3. Yeah, because now they don't have knight f6. We've drawn their knight away. So I found that to be pretty beautiful, guys, that within like the span of a month, I found a couple of examples where a Rook E6 move, which wasn't capturing anything, which wasn't even like clearly threatening anything, right? In like a very obvious way, was actually the key move in an attack. And the thing that these moves have in common, of course, is that they are stopping the opponent's main defensive ideas. So I think, yeah, it's probably one of the most challenging things to see in chess is like not a super forcing move in the middle of an attack. And obviously, I'm going to be a lot more like alert to it after I saw these examples, and hopefully you guys will be too.